How's it going, everyone? Javita here with a spec type guide. This is going to be probably like a little mini series going over each spec individually. So the very first one I'm going to go over is actually going to be kind of a generalist. This is basically a spec I use to just run around and do a little bit of everything. This is primarily focused on solo hunting and a little bit of gathering. So basically I can go around and do some solo hunting, even solo some meteors, as well as do some gathering along the way, mostly focused on either cave mining or gathering surface resources. One of the weaknesses of this build is that it has fairly low vitality, so anything like an elite wild stock, maybe even mighty wild stock, will one-shot this build if you are not very good at dodging. So bit of a glass cannon, but it does amazing damage with sling bows. You literally have the maximum damage modifier for sling bows. It does pick up a little bit of hammer mastery, so if you're cave diving you can pick up some resources a little bit faster, but mostly it focuses on increasing the resources gained. So of course you have maximum luck along with the gathering epic down here, which gives you extra drops from surface resources like plants, boulders, and fungi, as well as allowing you to collect them as a placeable object if you harvest with a shovel. Following the theme of mobility, it has the jump distance epic. Optionally, you could also leave something else out and get the air jump epic. However, personally, I find that the first jump epic is plenty. So looking at this a little bit closer, you can see that I've maxed out power for damage. I've gotten an okay amount of dexterity to increase action speed. I've maxed out agility to increase my run speed as much as possible, as well as luck to increase any drops that I might get. Zeal I've maxed out for the sole purpose of it has an additional effect of increasing how long your buffs last, as well as decreasing how long your debuffs last. So I felt like that was a pretty good investment there, especially since the well-fed buff is much more valuable now that you can actually starve. And then naturally over here, I max out the attribute bonus because this will give me the last 10 points for each of these attributes over here that I'm trying to max out. Not to mention, it does give you a little bit of control for extra mining range, as well as intelligence to help your healing just a tiny bit. Coming down, since I'm maximizing sling bow damage, I picked up sling bow mastery here, as well as the first sling bow epic under epic 1. I come over and get the hammer epic just to give a little bit extra speed and damage to hammers for cave mining and such. Certainly if you find yourself harvesting more wood and dirt, you could take the shovel and axe epic over here. So it really just kind of depends on what kind of gathering you want to do in this type of spec. If you don't want to do any gathering, then well, really you're just a hunting DPS build, but you could certainly take this hammer epic and use those 5 points pretty much anywhere else. Something that I did not take as far as mobility is Grapple Mastery. I would really like to take this, but I'm used to playing without it, so it's a luxury I'm kind of denying myself for the time being. However, this would give you an extra 25 meter range on all of your grapples, as well as making the projectile fly faster, so that would be a nice increase on mobility with grapples, so that's something to consider. Coming down here, since I took so few points in vitality, I took the health epic to try to boost it up a little bit higher. You can use this epic with a lower amount of vitality to actually end up getting more health for less points, which is why I maxed out the zeal for the buff duration, since vitality has no real other effect other than increasing HP. Unless of course you're interested in forging, but this build would absolutely suck for forging, so yeah, don't really need to worry about that. Over here I did take the charging epic. and I'll talk about this a little bit more, but as far as raw DPS, this really isn't that great of an option. It does allow you to charge up a shot for roughly an extra 20% damage, but for sustained damage over time, it's not that great. However, it does encourage you to use your sling bows a little bit more efficiently, being a little bit kinder to their durability. Speaking of durability, down here under Epic 2 is the Durability Drain Epic, which reduces wear on equipment by 30%. Basically, I don't know about you all, but I like replacing my gear 30% less often, so this felt like a no-brainer to me. And then coming over here, this is where that choice of the charge epic becomes a little bit more apparent, is because I decided to take the health regeneration epic. At first glance, this looks really weak, but if you're unwilling to keep a full up buff at all times or keep a well-fed buff to preserve that, this helps with all the random damage that you take throughout your adventures. And since this build does a lot of just full tilt running and grappling through the world, I do take quite a bit of minor fall damage here and there, and it does add up over time. This helps to negate that. Also, because I'm using the charge epic, I found that I really wasn't utilizing this energy regeneration to basically at all. I don't use this build for sustained mining, just kind of occasional whacking things here and there as far as resources or surface resources. So originally I did have this energy regeneration epic, and while it is very nice, I just found I wasn't using it, so I opted for the health regeneration instead. And as I already mentioned, I have the Gathering Epic over here to increase drops from surface resources, the Jump Distance Epic for that extra bit of mobility. This is a really awesome skill that can really help you to use your grapple less often, because you can just hold down the jump button and basically climb up mountains with this. Certainly the grapple would get you up there faster if you have a nice grapple, but again, it comes down to preserving durability of items. So I generally like to play a bit on the frugal side, but certainly that is personal preference. Then coming down here, I felt this was a no-brainer of 50% extra damage to everything you do. So this will help you with your shovels and axes, since we did not take any mastery for those tools. This also gives you the maximum sling bow damage of 240% extra damage. And yeah, especially if you have a nice forged sling bow, you can just melt just about anything. Like I said earlier, this is a bit of a glass cannon. My HP bar isn't even 2 full blue bars, so yeah, I have to be very careful how I engage animals and be very proactive as far as dodging. So certainly if you want a bit more of a forgiving build as far as how much damage you can take, you would want to invest more points into vitality. So off the top of my head, I could probably take a little bit more out of dexterity and dump into vitality, which vitality is going to do 3 times as much for me since I have the health epic. Another thing to consider is I could completely forego any kind of sling bow epic ability over here, so ditch the charging in favor of just regular firing. And that would certainly free up a lot of points for vitality, and I could even invest deeper into dexterity to help out with shovels and axes if I really wanted to. And something I accidentally skipped over was endurance, and I took kinetic armor since that is the thing you're going to get hit by the most. If you're unfamiliar, kinetic deals with all single target damage, so like spitter projectiles, projectiles from cuddle trunks. This does not cover things that are AoE like the bombs from cuddle trunks or even their death beams. However, most AoE damage is pretty easy to avoid, especially if you're the only target or you're playing solo, that is. And coming over to Impulse, Impulse has to do with all that AoE damage I was talking about. So bombs, death beams, things like that. Again, those are pretty easy to avoid. And there are also resistances. So resistances is a chance to avoid all damage. It doesn't reduce your damage by percent, it just gives you essentially a dodge chance. So if you're not taking this protection epic down here, these resistances just don't really do that much for you. This kinetic armor will shave off 150 points of damage from each single target hit, so low level creatures literally cannot harm you. So this helps to avoid at least some of the damage in combat and makes you a tad bit more durable. Just keep in mind that any high level wild stock is probably going to one-shot you unless you invest deeper into vitality. Okay, well I think that covers the solo hunter-gatherer spec pretty well. This is all kind of personal preference basically. This is just what I personally use. It is a bit of a glass cannon, but it is a great spec for just running around the planet doing a bit of everything. You can do a little bit of mining, you can do a little bit of fighting, and yeah, fairly decent spec. Anyway, this was Javita. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and if there's anything you didn't like, please let me know down below. Also, if you like my channel and want to get cool perks, check out my Patreon page. Till next time, peace.